Well, spring is here, summer's next, and I have parked the snowblower for the winter. So I did a video, an initial review video of the snowblower a couple months ago, and I've used it in a few of our smaller snowstorms. We haven't really had any good ones yet, at least not this year for the 2018-19 winter, but I did have I think the biggest snowstorm I think we got was around 10 inches, and that last one we had was nothing but wet, slushy crap. And I'm happy to say that this Toro 824 ate it right up. And it's a good little machine. Very strong, and I have no complaints. So I'm glad I bought this machine. I didn't buy the cheapest, nor did I buy the most expensive machine money can buy, but this thing retailed, I think I paid $850 for this thing. So, I mean, that's a considerable amount of money, but I only intend to buy one snowblower. In fact, I'm just, with the size of my property and the amount of snow that we get in this area, I think I'll probably get around 20 years out of this machine with proper maintenance. And maybe a few part replacements here and there, but such is life. I mean, my father, his last snowblower lasted him around 10 years before he decided to get a bigger model. And he ended up selling the one he had for a pretty good amount of money, in fact. So I don't see why I can't get 20 years out of this thing. But one thing I will tell you is that it is rusting a little surface rust in between the auger sections that are welded together. There is a solution for that, and that is spray the entire auger with fluid film, and that will help keep rust at bay. It's only surface rust. It doesn't mean it's a piece of junk. It just, there are some parts of the metal. See, when they painted this auger, they didn't dip it in paint. It was more likely sprayed in a booth after it was welded. So I don't know if that's just a Toro thing or it's common for all other makes and models, but I'm just going to fluid film the entire, and of course you get that surface corrosion on the gearbox. That's normal. They all do that. But anyway, now that we're getting into the spring and summer season, let's take a look at my latest. But before you all jump on the comments box and ask me why I'm not buying battery-powered equipment like a lawnmower or a weed eater or leaf blower, what have you, I'm going to address this right now because I know you're asking and you're chomping at the keyboard to get this out of the way, right? Well, here we are. I absolutely hate electric and battery-powered power equipment. I have since I was a 9-year-old kid with a lawn mowing business. I know a lot's changed in 25 years. A lot has changed in 25. I get it. Here's the thing. I love internal combustion engines. I love them. It is a passion of mine, probably not a very healthy one because of, the environment and all that. But I love them. I just love internal combustion engines. I love running them. I love servicing them. I love fixing them when they break. One of the things that I've been very good at since I was about 9 years old is repairing small engines. It's something I don't do a lot of videos on because I haven't really had the opportunity to, because a lot of my small engine repair experiences and service experience predates YouTube. It's funny that when you say that, but prior to 2006 or so, that's what I did a lot. As a not as a job, but I serviced lawnmowers for my neighbors in my old neighborhood and my parents' equipment when my dad didn't have time to. Snow blowers, lawnmowers, leaf blowers, or all that stuff. That's what I did for fun. And as an adult, I'm reveling in the fact that I own a home and I have all of this equipment to, to not only take care of, but to, it's a weird thing. I mean, but hey, there are people that collect washing machines, so I don't feel weird anymore. Thanks, YouTube, for opening my eyes to how normal I really am. But no, I love small engines. I don't. It's a weird thing. It's just But one of the things that when I was growing up and I was mowing lawns to make money, I knew many people that had electric weed whackers and electric hedge trimmers, and these are people, in almost every instance, these are people who they looked at lawn care, and they looked at household chores as just that, a chore, something to just get over with. And one of the things that people who don't want to, they would rather sit on a couch and watch television or play video games all day. A lot of those people, they don't want to service a lawnmower. They don't want to service a weed whacker. They don't want to have to change oil or mix gas with oil or change a spark plug or diagnose and troubleshoot their engines. They just want to plug it in, get it done, and go back in and watch TV again. Okay, I'm over stereotyping people who like electric power tools. I get that. My apologies. But that's just how I felt back then. And it's kind of how I feel now. The thing is, yes, an electric lawnmower is probably much greener than a gas-powered one. In many ways, there's no oil to change, and there's no. But here's the thing: when that battery pack on that lawnmower goes bad in about 3 years, that whole lawnmower is probably going to get thrown away. And this mower is already 4 years old, and it'll probably go another 5 or 6. It's not like you're using it every day. You're running it once every couple weeks or every week, depending on the rain and depending on how your grass is growing. And you'll get 10 years out of a lawn. I think the average lifespan of a lawnmower should be around 10 to 15 years. And, of course, that's based on my own personal experience with power equipment like lawnmowers and such. But my theory is that those electric mowers are just going to wind up in the trash heap in 3 years, and they cost more than a gas-powered mower. And the electricity used to charge the battery pack, at least in my state, is generated primarily from coal. And there are some biomass plants, but we still use fossil fuels in my state to generate power because that's what we have. And the protesters finally succeeded in shutting down the nuclear plant. So, hey, that happened. So, I don't want to sound like I'm not going to make this a political issue, but I just don't like electric mowers. I see nothing wrong with them on the outward appearance, but oh yeah, when I was a kid, we had plug-in electric lawnmowers, so they weren't battery powered. That's what was around in 1994 or 5 when I started mowing lawns as a side business. Electric mowers did exist, and you plugged them in with a power cord, and they were terrible. But yes, some of the stuff made today is actually pretty damn good. I admit that. I saw a video of a guy, professional I think, who was using an electric weed whacker, and it was actually pretty fantastic. I prefer to have a gas engine that I can fill up when I need to. Gas engines, you don't have to plug it in and wait for it to charge. You just put gas in and go when you need it. And in the winter, you drain it out, you store it, put some stabilizer, whatever your method of choice is, and it'll start right up next spring. With an electric machine, that battery could go dead in the winter and never take a charge again. Now you got to either pay $150, $200 on a new battery pack, or spend $400 on a new mower. It's like, no, I'm good. Just give me a gas machine. I love small engines. So that's my passion, and one of my many passions. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry. That's just who I am. Onward and upward. Before we get into a long discussion about power equipment, let's take a look outside for what, take a look at a project that I've been working on all day, actually. What a beautiful day. It's been like 70s all day, but anyway, so this big 11-foot picture window with the two side windows, I actually had to scrape and paint the entire thing, which was a fun project. This is a window that I do not intend to replace at any point ever, and I want it to last, as it's already done. But I scraped the wood down, took all the old loose paint off, and I found that there was some water damage, a little bit of dry rot. So I removed any loose wood fibers, and then I actually put several coats of Minwax wood stabilizer on top of it. You let that soak in. It's a resin. It's actually plastic dissolved in acetone, if I'm not mistaken. And what it does is it bonds the wood fibers back together again. It gives you a nice surface to repair. So then you put wood filler on top of that and any cracks or voids in the wood, and you've preserved it. You basically preserve the wood at that point. And then I applied several coats of a heavy-duty white exterior semi-gloss latex paint, and applied caulking on every seam in the entire window. As for these side windows, once this is all done, this is really to stabilize it for the weather that's to come. We'll be getting some rain. I don't want the window getting any worse. So phase 2 is I'm going to reglaze these windows. All of these have to be reglazed. All this has to be chipped out and replaced, the glazing compound. They will then be cleaned and painted, and that's it. Then I'm going to put the storm windows back on. The only reason the windows in this house have survived as well as they have in the preservation state that they've been left in is because when the house was built, they put storm windows in every window, and that helps prevent direct weather exposure to the window sashes and the tracks. So all of these windows work perfectly fine. We do need to get some new rubber seals in the sashes that I have to do, and we'll make them work again. But yeah, there was caulking missing all along this ledge. This splatter was here when I bought the house. I didn't do that. But this has all been chipped out and replaced all that caulking. And that's what I've been doing all day long. Not to mention cleaning the yard, tearing up roots. Look at all that yard waste. All in a day's work. Still have to take out these stumps. There's one there, one there, one there, and yeah. So let's go into the garage. So there's nobody home. Shh, you like the baby. So yeah, I apologize to my loyal fans for being absent largely from YouTube for the past couple weeks. I haven't really done much on the channel, so I've been busy. Spending time with my girlfriend, and she's getting into the whole gardening thing. So she went out and bought a whole bunch of gardening stuff, and she's planting now mostly vegetables, but some flowers and vegetables and stuff. She's got those, and they're actually in the breezeway right now. Anyway, so where were we? Yeah, we wanted to talk about some power equipment that I've been acquiring to maintain this lovely piece of American post-war modernism that I bought. That makes absolutely no sense, but anyway. So yeah, we're going to start off. We'll talk about this lawnmower, then we'll work our way towards some other equipment that I've been using. This is stuff that I've either bought used, already had, or bought new. I bought the snowblower shortly after I moved in, and this lawnmower came to me from my parents. My father bought this mower new back in 2013. This is a Cub Cadet. It has the Chinese engine on it, which is not a big deal. I know there were some isolated cases of, I believe, valve guide failures on these. Or no, push rod guide failures. I saw one video of one that actually had that happen. This is a mower that I basically got for nothing. I mean, I didn't get it for free. I paid my father for it. He didn't need it. He was going to get rid of it. So I'm like, yeah, I'll take it off your hands. And anyway, this is it's a self-propelled 6-speed, built-in bagger with the zero-turn wheels or casters, zero-turn radius casters. I kind of like that. I would never buy one of these mowers new. I'm not too impressed with the build quality. It's actually quite depressing. MTD builds this machine, and almost every mower that MTD sells today has a similar setup or configuration on the deck, where they have a steel deck, which is fine. I have nothing against steel mower decks. I prefer aluminum, but okay. But the gearbox and the rear axle is mounted in a plastic outrigger that's bolted to the deck. I think it's a very poor design. It will fail at some point, and when it does, it's going straight into the garbage. And the same deal with the front wheels. They're mounted to a plastic mounting block. It really weakens. It was one of those. I get why they did this, because you can make one piece out of one. You can take multiple pieces and replace them with a single injection molded piece of plastic, and it saves a lot of cost. It also reduces the mower's lifespan. A steel mower deck, as long as it doesn't rot out, and the old ones didn't, but this one will because it's so damn thin, can last indefinitely. You can replace the motor when it blows up. You can replace the wheels. You can replace anything if you need to, and if it's cost effective. But a mower like this, once that plastic breaks, and it will, it's junk. It's not even worth fixing. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. But it's a mower. It runs fantastic. My father never really used this much, so it has plenty of life left in it. So I'll be able to get a few years out of it, I think. But I'm planning on replacing it with a Toro, possibly one with a. I'm not sure whether to go with the Chinese or the Lonson engine, which is what Toro uses, or the Briggs engine, or get a Honda motor, because it's funny. In this day and age, even Honda motors aren't sainted, because a lot of their belt-driven motors, I believe, have a high failure rate. Overhead valve. Overhead cam. I think they're overhead cam engines. They make a mower that has a timing belt, a mower engine with a timing belt, and it's an internal timing belt. And I guess they have a high failure rate. But anyway, that's just from information that I got from a guy who works in power equipment repair. So not to jump around too much, but I did mention some products that I used on my on my picture window in my living room. Wood hardener. This is the stuff that I used to reconstitute some of the dry rotted wood. What this stuff does is it soaks into the wood and it coats the fibers. It almost like encapsulates them in polymer. And actually, does it say specifically what it is? It does not. Basically, it's polymer dissolved in acetone. It smells heavily of acetone. I poured some into this container to get my brush in. It'll destroy your brush, by the way. And you can see there's a nice clear shininess in there. It looks wet, but it's totally dry. That is the polymer. And so once all the acetone evaporates out of it, you're left with a kind of a resin. Then you take this 2-part epoxy wood filler, and you mix it up, and you press it into, like, for example, I had some wood that had some splitting. You just press it in there and kind of take your putty knife and all the way across, and it gets it into the grain. I'm telling you right now, that window will last a long time. And the reason that it went to hell is because this house went for a good 20 years with very little maintenance. The absolute bare minimum you can do to keep a house standing. So things like scraping and painting trim didn't get done. So that leaves me with more work to do. And hey, you know what? I got the house really cheap, so I am not complaining. Some of the stuff that I'm experiencing is, you know, this was a house that would have gone to a flipper, and a flipper would have come in here, put in a new garage door, you know, maybe painted some stuff up, maybe put in new shiny appliances, and, you know, whatever, and then sell it for a huge profit. Because I got it at the price I got it at, I could do that. I could fix it up and sell it for a huge profit, and I'm not doing that. I like the house too much to do that. Because finding another house like this one that has everything I want in a neighborhood that I like, it's just not going to happen. So, market's pretty dead right now. There's not a lot of inventory. It's funny. They say that millennials aren't buying houses. Well, I think the real problem is baby boomers aren't selling them. So anyway, let's talk about this. So I just picked this up. This is my new weed whacker. Now, basically, I ended up buying one of the most popular weed whackers in the market today. There's a lot of videos on the internet about this unit, and for a lot of good reasons. Echo builds fantastic products. It's not, well, Echo is the brand name. It's actually Yamamoto that builds these, or Yamabiko, sorry. Yamabiko is the company, the Japanese company that designs and manufactures these tools. Echo is a brand name used on leaf blowers, like my leaf blower up there, chainsaws, and all sorts of equipment. And trimmers, of course, string trimmers. So this unit right here, I picked up at Home Depot for $200. I actually went to a dealer to pick one of these up, but their hours are never open when I have time to go there. It's really unfortunate because I prefer to go to a dealer to get something like this, just because you get better service and you know that the people that you're exchanging your money with, they actually care. You buy something like this at Home Depot or your lawnmower or whatever, you're buying from somebody who could be gone the next week. To them it's just a job. But the dealers often employ people who are, very knowledgeable in the industry. And where possible, I like to go to the proper dealers. And if you ever have a problem with it, they're more likely to take care of you. So this thing right here, how can I tell you about this? I needed a string trimmer, and I actually bought a brand new Echo string trimmer back in 2003 or 4 as a birthday gift for my dad. And he still has it, but he never uses it anymore. I don't know why he doesn't use it. But it's still, I actually was at their house the other day. I pulled the string and it fired right up. It's been sitting with the same fuel for 5 years maybe, and it still goes. But one time the fuel lines rotted off of it, as sometimes can happen with plastic fuel lines or rubber, whatever these are, nylon, I don't know, whatever they're made of. They can often disintegrate, and that's usually I think it's one of the most common reasons people end up throwing these things away, because they don't know that you can just replace the fuel lines. But we're going to start this thing up, see how she runs, do the inaugural startup, see how it runs, and we'll check back after that. Okay, turn the switch to on. Choke. Press 8 times. 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. There we go. 9 times. And here we go. Okay, turn the choke off. Spoiler alert, I actually filmed that a few days ago, but I haven't started it since. That's the only time I've run this thing. And I gotta be honest, it sounds pretty good. I have a lot of nooks and crannies and trees and things to kind of go around. So I went with the straight shaft model. What I also like about the straight shaft version of this string trimmer, the SRM225, there's also is it the GX or GT series? Those are the curved shaft models. I went with the straight shaft for 2 reasons. Number one, I feel that I'll be able to get into some of the more difficult to access areas of my yard. But the other thing I like about this that the curved shaft model didn't have is an aluminum alloy or whatever this is. It's metal nose piece. That to me is a very a very good indication of quality in this model. It could be used more frequently without any risk of breakage. I've actually had string trimmers where the nose piece of the engine snapped or cracked, and once that happens, either replace the whole front of the engine or you just buy a new trimmer. But this was built to last a long time. Has a very comfortable handle, nice throttle. These units have a throttle interlock, so you can't just pick it up with your finger and accidentally gun the engine. You have to press slightly down with your thumb to disengage it. I think that's a requirement now, probably through OSHA or Consumer Product Safety Commission. There's your start run switch. You've got a primer bulb, as you might always see on one of these units, and your choke. This engine does comply with certain modern fuel and emission standards. This right here is your tank vent, and I believe there might even be carbon in this thing. But this is your tank vent. It's designed to prevent spillage and leakage of fuel vapors. You've got one thing I want to point out: if you're buying a string trimmer, there's a good way to tell how durable the engine is allegedly built. And I found it kind of surprising that this one doesn't have the rating that I was expecting. Professional grade trimmers are going to have a much higher number, but on the emissions control information tag, it tells you what the emissions compliance period for the engine is in terms of runtime. This one is only designed to be compliant for 50 hours, whereas some of the professional trimmers are good for 300 hours. That does not mean that the engine will only last 50 hours and it's junk. It just means that the manufacturer is only guaranteeing emissions compliance for 50 runtime hours. That does not mean that after 50 hours it's worn out and junk. That is not true at all. And furthermore, a unit like this you can always get parts for if, for example, you needed to rebuild the top end. I don't know why someone would rebuild a string trimmer, but you can definitely do that. And I want to make a quick note on the easy start system that that Echo uses. There's two different ones. There's the I think it's, I forget the brand. It was on the packaging somewhere, but I don't have it here. It was like Easy Pull 40 and like Easy Pull 75 or something like that. This one has the lower of the two. The Easy Pull 75. I'm making this up. It's something like that. You'll know what I mean when you see it in the in the brochures when you start looking at trimmers. All it is a there's a spring, like a preload on the starter coil, recoil. Now what it actually does is when you pull this rope just a little bit, there's a little bit of spring tension, like before it starts to turn the engine. Okay? And what that does is it winds up a spring that once the engine hits a compression stroke, it's going to rapidly unwind, okay? It works with you. It's a neat idea. But what it's really doing is it's taking, and it's concentrating some of your upward motion and concentrating it so that as soon as that engine overcomes its next compression stroke, it releases and it unwinds, it gives you more momentum. So it makes it much easier to start the engine. I think I'm explaining it right. Correct me if I'm wrong. I do remember way back in the day, I mean, like, of course, long before I was born, Briggs & Stratton had an easy start system. It was you wound up a clockwork mechanism on the top of the motor, and you released a button, and it started the engine with spring force. That is not what this is, but it's kind of hard to explain. I haven't actually seen it apart yet, but I can feel there's definitely some. I mean, I could be feeling the compression stroke, but I feel that there's like a little bit of a springiness between. I can't explain shit on camera. I'm sorry, guys. So I'm going to get corrected in the comments field on this. I'm doing it all wrong. I'm explaining it wrong, or I don't know what I'm talking about. Fine, whatever. But if you are going to say that, explain how it works, because I've never pulled one of these apart, so I don't know. Fair enough. For my next trick, I'm going to show you my Echo cardiogram. No, this is my Echo PB500T leaf blower. This was a freebie. I found this one in the trash. Don't ask me why someone would throw this thing away. I mean, it is basically brand new. When I got it, it was actually, yeah, it's a 2011 model. Now, remember when we talked about the emissions compliance period? This one's rated for 300 hours. So presumably a much more durable emissions system in this one than, say, in that weed whacker. But 300-hour compliance rating. This is a fantastic leaf blower, and not just because I got it for nothing. But it is objectively just a good, well-built machine. 50cc, little 50cc two-stroke. I mean, it's just well made, and somebody threw it away. I don't get it. What is wrong with people? But yeah, this thing it starts up first pull usually, or second or third. Two strokes are usually pretty wonky, especially even brand new ones. But it's comfortable. You hold it on your back. Now I use this to blow all the leaves and debris into one location where I rake it up and bag it from there. A leaf blower does not replace a rake. It supplements raking and makes it much faster because you can get all the leaves into one area and then clean it up from there. But just a well-built little machine. I believe these cost around $400 new. But yeah, it's a 2011 model, and I picked it up in probably 2013. Yeah, right about then. Right about 2013, I think I found it. And I don't understand why someone would just do that. But I suspect that it was somebody who was downsizing and didn't want to go through the hassle of selling off their lawn and garden equipment. That is a possibility. So, who knows? But there it is, my Echo leaf blower. I actually pressure washed this thing because it was really gross looking. And you can see that the moisture has gotten to the bolt heads. I'm going to take these off and clean them up with a wire wheel. That thing. Make them look new again. Or you know what I'll probably do is I'll drop them into a container of Evapo-Rust. That works really well. Last thing I want to show you is this machine here. Now this does not belong to me, but this is my father's. It will probably end up becoming mine someday, but right now it's my father's. This is a Massport rototiller. I'm pretty sure it's missing the front guard, if it ever had one, I don't know. But I want to use this to break up some of the surface on the lawn and maybe pull out some superficial roots. But this thing is, it doesn't look like it runs, but I assure you it does. This has got a very old Briggs motor. I should look up the serial number and find out when it was made. But I suspect this motor, it was a Magnetron. No, Easy Spin starting. When they said Magnetron on them. Yeah, anyway, this thing is, let's look at that stick carburetor. You don't see those anymore. I had the same carburetor on my mini bike. Basically the same engine on my mini bike. Looks like it might be I'm going to say a 5-horse motor. Maybe. It leaks oil like a bastard. It's a used machine, and it runs fantastic. And it's bent. The handles are bent. But you know what? It does the job, and it does it well. Basically, we've got probably a direct drive. Yeah, I think it is a direct drive. Yeah, there's no gearbox in there. Or if there is, I can't tell for sure. But shaft driven, and there's just a little worm gearbox in there. That's all it is. My dad actually started using this on his lawn, and as he was digging around the garage, he pulled out a giant metal marker of some kind, like a stake, and we're not really sure what it was for, but he was like, you know what, screw this. he gave up. But anyway, he'll let me borrow this. I'm going to use this to dig up parts of my lawn so I can grow grass much more effectively. But yeah, it runs really well. Starts right up. It actually gave us a bit of a hard time getting it running. It's been a couple years since it's last been run, and I had to start it on starting fluid. But once it got it going, it's good. I think this is a really right now. Right now, I'm filming, and yeah, ugh. It's playing the Korean national anthem. Samsung. Are we done? No? Is that it? There we go. Okay. back to what we were doing. So yeah, I think this one has a point ignition system rather than a pointless or breakerless ignition. So they can be a bit bitchy, especially when they're sitting for a long time. You can usually get, some corrosion or whatever between the points, and it won't start. But anyway, it runs for now. But yeah, I'm going to use that to dig up my lawn, and then I'll give it back to him. And more specifically, I have one spot in my lawn where there's right next to the driveway. It's all deeply rutted, and I'm hoping I can even out the ruts, break it up with this, and then use my hard rake to level it off.